We do.
Oh, it was started
but
already.
I can't. Yeah. So there is a way.
The only time I've ever been
I guess it's mute? Is that?
What's that?
Oh, mute.
Like,
Oh yeah, mute. So when it's steady, I think it's fine. Okay. But it's not.
yeah, that's the best.
Streaming, right?
Well, and that's what's
Or is that
really
streaming?
exciting is it's cold.
Like, I don't even know what that is.
What are they?
building was pretty good.
25.
Even in
What is it? 25 cash, 20 credits.
It is yours.
So it's
working.
gotta get paid for your efforts, man.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Wow.
I have a t-shirt.
Where's it at, man?
Yeah,
You need two for when one's dirty.
I got it from.
Do you have a t-shirt?
Yeah, we got it.
Well, you know I bought it.
Does it work? Yeah, it's
I was
working.
wondering if I could rent a t-shirt. It's cold. What? It's cold.
Agree, it is cold.
It's cold. Everything.
Everybody
Everybody at home listening to this. No wonder no one listens.
I don't know what
does it.
No. You have to refer to
I'm not terrible.
Give some commentary.
How do you rate it for now?
Stinky.
What are you offering to rent it for?
$5.
Dollar. Or
$5?
The community.
$2.
Well, I'm
$5
just
an
saying
hour?
it. I don't know if anyone's
No, it's actually on the
What's that?
Put on a layaway plan for bags.
But anyway.
Anyway, we're here.
Yeah, like it's
Screaming.
working at least. And it's recording, like YouTube saves the comments.
Oh, really?
Later, so that's like that part's nice. Like, if
Leslie's
you
got a
want to have the
shirt.
presentation,
I do. I bought it at the Gunks and I got a free
And
day
then
pass.
you
You
save
got a
it
free day
separately.
pass.
Wow.
Guns.
like on a hard drive somewhere.
Nice.
I do.
Fine.
No, you
I
just
have a
need
membership.
YouTube, okay? That's super
Buy a t-shirt extra ones.
I mean, we just started this year, so
If you
it's
buy
experiment.
a t-shirt, you got a free day pass.
Corey got a
idea.
t-shirt because he's a chump.
Like people ask for it. I
Really?
don't know if they're actually
I know people
watch
will.
it.
Yeah, he has
So,
a
like-
muscle there. Yeah.
But I like the presentations. I like
Yeah.
I like sort of the
Don't be mad because
That's
you're
almost,
weak.
that's almost cool.
pretty good presentations too.
So you have like a channel?
You can't stand up
You
to
guys,
it.
these are all stored?
He's like, yeah, I remember
Yeah, it's just my personal channel right now. So I
You should
don't-
make a PATC channel.
I should, but yeah. I'll have to create another Google web page site or something. I think whoever controls the PATC XCOM email address still has it, but we don't know who has the password for that. I think it's like a former chair, from
Create a new one.
like 4 chairs back or something.
And then next weekend, I've got this thing with our hammer.
How big are these files after you're done streaming?
Huh?
How big are the files?
I don't know. Like these end up being like an hour or 2 long. Like I can edit that and cut them down to
I could use it. I just forget setting it up. I just wrap myself.
I want to jump in that.
But I mean,
I don't know
we're
what
not
we have.
organized enough
I
to
would
do
look at
I
it.
don't see any endings.
to do a newsletter.
The old building, but
This
it's
one,
all
yes.
Wait. I do.
ceramic walls.
It's only this big.
Like one shoulder and then 5 minutes later, put the other shoulder.
I
Break it
can use
off.
the napkins.
Yeah.
Use the paper bag. I can use this, it's reflective.
What are you trying to do there?
I think I'm just
Get a
gonna
picture
walk
of
out.
that. You're covered in napkins. That's little rags.
They're asking for it to. It's all what's granite and people said they were climbing granite, so probably
Isn't that the joy of humility?
and it's all
It's the same people over and over
different
again.
kinds of climbing, so especially cracks. So
You getting out anywhere? You getting out climbing?
Not that much this year.
Yeah.
Between the rain and it, I've been to the guns twice.
Once, twice. That's pretty good.
Oh, I mean, I guess,
Right here.
I guess so, but like, I mean, that's the only like place I've been besides Carter off.
Yeah.
I'll keep
as
the
long as you have
vultures that paper.
Usually I do like
yeah, they say it's pretty
twice
easy.
a month.
That's awesome.
And
some old tapes, family tapes.
Went with my
We used-
friend
we
and
used
some other
to,
people, and then right
mail
after they're done with that trip,
real-
they're
little
driving
little
across
tiny
country
reel to
to
reels
the
back and forth.
This weekend I can't go.
Still have
Next
a
weekend,
set
I'm trying to pick up this weekend, watch it. Where are you going, Seneca?
I gotta kind of stay local. My wife's having her first kid in like 6 weeks.
They said they went there one time.
What's that?
We'll make another, it's fine.
That's true.
Okay, because they compared to these.
No, I mean, that's a good reason.
I've got a microphone.
It's getting to the point where you want to kind of be in the area.
Yeah, well, I've got a player for this.
Yeah, I meant comparisons, they're not like
I'm hoping it's gonna be like,
60s, but you
yeah,
probably.
normal weather there in July is like 75.
Is that kind of hold on longer trips for a while? Or are you guys gonna go out?
No, we gotta. No, I mean we gotta figure this out. We've never had any kids, so no idea how to do this. So
I
yeah, we'll
know
feel
a
it
bunch
out.
of airlines let kids under 2 fly free.
Really?
Yeah,
You have to hold them?
Yeah, I think like they
All right, everybody wants some pizza, come get some, and Eric?
But my
Let's have a
landlord,
show.
his wife's Austrian, so they like flew back and forth. His wife is Austrian? My landlord's wife.
Oh, okay.
So they had a kid, so they flew back and forth while she was still young.
Cool.
Everybody gets to go lie down on the pavement out there, probably warm.
So is
So nice out there.
Wild Lick
For being cold.
somebody in the club?
Yeah.
Wild Lick?
Am I wild luck?
No, Wild Black is a place, right?
It's a mountain.
Thankful for it. Cold.
Should your name be up there somewhere?
I don't take credit for this stuff. I just put it out there public.
You don't want
Public
anybody to
use.
find out you did this.
Yeah.
That's quite a thing they do with genetics nowadays.
She'd like to rent it.
Yeah, the dinosaur man. Carol's hustling sometimes. They're
Is Carol selling stuff?
antiques. They're antiques.
Like 5.
They weigh like 14 and a half pounds each. They're good on the way down, they're hell on the way up.
We gotta try and hold them this fall. Real New York pizza. Doesn't collapse.
Yeah, it's got-
Okay, tonight's presentation
Okay.
is by Eric Meredith. We'll be talking about the Wild Lek.
So it's called Vildalek.
Wildelek.
Oh, we'll get to
Oh, you're right. God, I blew
We'll
that
get
one
later.
completely.
Later.
I'm fail. Never mind. Fail.
Yeah, should I start? Yeah, so my name is Eric. I put together a presentation on a alpine climb that I did in Austria. I was fortunate enough to have lived in Austria for a couple of years for work and had an opportunity to do a lot of alpine climbing. And collected a few experiences, some skills, and I just want to share it with the club, I guess. I also support or help out with the Alpine Skills Weekend that the club does in New Hampshire every January. There's a couple graduates here. I say, yeah. And just to put a plug in for it, it's a really great program, I think, for like new folks who want to enter the Alpine, kind of learn the basic skills. So,
Any idea how that compares with Knowles or something?
ooh, I don't know. I've never done Knowles.
No.
How does it compare to Knowles? No, it's like a 3-day week. It's like a
Probably cheaper,
3-day.
shorter, and colder.
Yeah, it's free. And it's taught by
Yep.
us, so it's not, can't be that good. So yeah, I just want to say, like, this can be like a free-flowing conversation. So jump in, ask questions, whatever, as we go. So I guess first of all, I'll tell you what this presentation is not. It's not some kind of like brilliantly crafted epic mountain story. It's more of a how-to documentary.
Do you have music?
No music. You got me and the pictures. But it's documentary how-to for climbing a glaciated moderate alpine route. So, and my target audience, I know we have like a lot of experience levels here, but my target audience for this would be kind of local climbers, folks that are climbing at the rock crags in this area, looking to add skills to their toolkit and kind of moving into the alpine. So. So anyway, yeah, I hope this like gives you some ideas for getting out there and pursuing bigger objectives, maybe some inspiration, and if anything, maybe you like the pretty pictures. I don't know. Okay, so the mountain I'll be talking about in this presentation is called Wilde, not Wildbeck. And the route is the East Arret or East Ridge, and it was first climbed in 1887. So you're talking leather boots, wool sweaters, lederhosen,
Wine.
pretty badass stuff, And just to connect it back to the U.S., so this type of climb, like the category of glaciated approaches, moderate alpine, you can find this in the Sierras, the Cascades, that kind of stuff in the U.S. if you're looking for something similar here in the U.S. Yeah, so let's get into
Is that a rope
it.
there, or is that a rope or something?
What's that?
Is that a rope, or is that a piece of rock wood?
That's a rope, yeah, that was a rope coming off them, yeah. So we'll just get oriented here with a map. This is Austria. The mountain I'm talking about is in Western Austria, which is generally considered the Eastern Alps. That red box there is the area we're going to zoom in on. How did you flip that?
Arrows are
Okay,
now.
they're working, okay. Yeah, so this climb is about 50 minutes southwest of Innsbruck. That's a small town in Western Austria. If you ever want to go to this area, which I highly recommend, there's like tons of climbing and skiing and hiking stuff to do out there. It's really, really beautiful. But what you would do is fly into Munich, take a train down to Innsbruck, and then kind of launch from there. So this climb, this mountain.
Did you self-guide, or did you have a guide?
This is a guide that I'm climbing with here. Yeah, and guides are easy to find out there. Let's see. So yeah, 50 minutes from Innsbruck down this valley here, leading from the upper right to the lower left. What you're shooting for if you want to go out and climb this mountain, the good thing is it's kind of near a big ski resort. It's in the center of that map, called Stubai Gletscher. So there's bus transportation from Innsbruck to the ski resort. And a nice thing about climbing in the Alps, there's a lot of infrastructure that supports mountain sports, and I recommend taking advantage of that infrastructure, like gondolas that'll take you up the first 5,000 feet that you don't have to climb, and then you can kind of start the proper approach. So what you're going to do here, get a one-day gondola pass at the ski resort, and take advantage of that infrastructure and get up high. Another general comment about climbing in the Alps: a lot of the mountains are involve glacier approaches, so that's something to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is a lot of the climbing is above 10,000 feet, and for folks that have done it, it's not a big deal. But if you're new to that, it is kind of a unique experience. You might find yourself getting a little bit lightheaded as you take off from the belay. Your endurance won't be kind of what you're used to here on the ground, so just keep that in mind.
It can help to learn a bit about high altitude physiology before you go, so you'll know what to
Yeah,
expect
yeah.
and how to take care of it.
Yeah,
And some of
'cause
the dangers involved.
there is, because proper rock climbing at altitude is just a very different experience, in my experience. All right, so we'll look at the route now. This is the mountain Wilde. It's a grade 3, which is roughly 10 to 12 hours car to car, taking the gondola, of course. This is a winter ascent, so we did this in January. So you're going to see a lot more snow and ice on the route. So you'll encounter rock, snow, and ice. The hardest rock pitches you'll see on this particular route, and I think generally for most moderate alpine climbs, 5.4, 5.5 kind of range. 50, 60 degree snow slopes, a little bit of ice. It's a ridge climb, so for this mountain, there's about 1,000 feet of ridge climb, vertical ridge climbing. The summit's at just over 11,000 feet, and I would say fairly committing route. I find ridge routes committing because this is the East Arret, so to your right is the north face, which is a pretty sheer cliff, not a lot of rappel, options there. And then to your left, the south face, it's a pretty big boulder field that you don't want to rappel into either. So, point is, fairly committing. You're gonna reach a point on the route where, if something goes wrong, if weather comes in or you get hurt, you're gonna have to make a decision to either it might be faster to finish the route or retrace your steps back down. So that kind of understanding where that point of no return at is somewhat important.
Well, the advantage of a loop hike is that you have a choice.
Yeah, you can a couple ways out, totally. Another cool thing about climbing in the Alps, they have world-class mountain rescue capabilities. I've never used it, but I know a lot of the mountain rescue folks, and they're highly skilled mountain climbers, skiers. They have all the infrastructure to come get you. The Alps can be pretty remote, but in most cases, you're going to have cell service, believe it or not. And you can call in mountain rescue kind of wherever you're at. Generally,
Can you anchor your tent to the cell towers?
what's that?
Anchor your tent to the cell towers.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that you'll run across. I will say though, if you're climbing or skiing in Austria at least, they'll charge you for rescue, so get the insurance. And it's just a year membership to the Austrian Alpine Club. And it's like 60 euros, and then it's all covered. So. Cool.
You said 6 euros?
60.
60.
Yeah, it's an annual membership.
Of course, you only have to buy 1 year if you're only going over there for
Yeah. Recommend sticking around.
So it's a good deal. It's several $1,000s.
10,000 to 15,000 bucks. All right, so we'll look at some of the gear. I think, with most gear selections, a lot of this comes down to personal preference. So this is my kit for this climb. It's a 1-day ascent. We're moving fast, so the theme here is fast and light. It was a winter. We went out in winter, so there was deep snow. We chose to use skis instead of post holing. So you have your basic backcountry ski setup. The first choice you have to make there is which boots you want to use. So you can choose to go with just your ski boots, where you're skiing really well but climbing not so well, or you can choose just to go with mountain boots, and you're kind of not skiing well but climbing well, or you can go with both. You end up carrying one and using the other.
I generally try to think about how much time I'm going to spend on each.
Yeah. It's really, like I said,
Skiing is fast, but
yep. Personal preference, right? And kind of what you're going to run into on the route.
What kind of temperatures were there?
This was in Fahrenheit. We're upper mid-20s in the morning and evening, kind of 30s during the day. Yeah. So let's see, 50-meter rope, pretty typical in the Alps. Safety gear. We climbed the entire route in crampons, so Ice X crampons. Can't forget the camera.
So wait a minute. So I'm seeing are those Dana-fit boots?
Yeah, Dana-fit boots. Yeah.
And you got climbing shoes as well? Or
Yeah, we brought both. So I'll show you later in the presentation. We did the approach on skis, the Dana-fit boots. Then we left the boots at the base, switched to mountain boots, and went up. Yeah. And mountain boots are so light these days. Like these are the Trangos. I mean, they weigh next to nothing.
Okay.
Pretty light rack, you'll see. The climbing is not very difficult, and you're not pitching stuff out very far. So and you're also taking advantage of the natural features in the route to kind of
any static
supplement.
protection?
What's that?
Is there any static protection? Any permanent protection?
No. I think there's one bolt on the entire route. Yeah, so not a lot. No, and kind of a weird traverse. So anyway, so let's see here. Now I'm gonna get into some of the skills, special skills you would need if you're coming from kind of rock crag to the Alpine, and this is assuming you have a baseline of like multi-pitch trad background. So fundamentally, you want some basic Alpine skills, and this is what folks are learning in the Alpine Skills Weekend that Bill puts on in January, and that gives you your baseline self-arrest, moving in crampons, snow anchors, that kind of stuff. I think that's critical to have if you're going to the Alpine. If you choose to use skis, you want to be solid with backcountry skiing. And this includes kind of skinning, kick turns, avalanche search and rescue, body recovery, first aid, the entire backcountry kind of kit. Another thing you should study up on is improvised belays. So this is, for most alpine climbs, you're going to run into a variety of terrain, rock, snow, and ice, and that terrain might be different from one month to the next, so you kind of don't know what you're going to hit, and you have to evaluate the situation as you go and be ready to improvise protection as you go. So understanding improvised belays is important. So here, for example, we're plunging skis in to protect kind of a solo descent, similar to an ice axe.
Understanding a little bit about glacial structure is kind of important too.
Yep.
And the weather you had over the past several months.
Yep. Studying the weather, very important. Looking for those weather windows.
Well, more importantly, knowing how the snow was built.
Over time, or the season. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Another improvised belay setup. You're sticking your skis straight into the ground, sitting down, and that's your anchor, and we're lowering someone off a bergstrom there.
Had you just climbed that, or?
I'm sorry?
Had you just climbed that, or you?
We're coming down. We're dropping into the glacier at this point. Yeah, dropping onto the glacier. Like I said earlier, natural features are great ways to set up a quick belay. Rock horns, big boulders you can look for to loop the rope around. So that's kind of the improvised belay section. And then glacier travel, if it's a glaciated approach. You want to understand how to rope up, how to safely travel over glaciers, how to perform crevasse rescue, if it comes to that.
How to enjoy some good ice climbing in the crevasse.
Yeah, if you get in there, you got to get out, huh?
But it's pretty. It's beautiful climbing. If you like ice climbing.
Yeah. So back to the gear for a second. I just want to point out the typical crevasse rescue kit that you'll see on most people in the Alps. It's just kind of down here. Pretty minimal kit, cordelette, screw, and some kind of ratchet system that's a micro traction.
And a tie block?
I'm sorry?
Is that a tie block?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's emergency kind of. But those three items kind of supplemented with the rest of your kit will pretty much get you out of anything. So.
Belt packets?
What's that? No.
Any sunscreen?
Sunscreen, yeah, you got sunscreen out there. Very important. All right, let's see. Now I'm going to talk about the climb itself, and I'm going to hit on some themes that you should be thinking about when you move into the Alpine. Again, you're going to be moving over varied terrain, rock, snow, and ice. It's going to change day to day, week to week. You're going to find yourself moving over snow slopes, scrambling over class 3, class 4 rock, and then doing full-on rock pitches where you have to protect it. And then, and it's just kind of cycling through that. You're going to scramble, rock pitch, easy snow ledge, scramble. So that's kind of the climbing that you're going to run into mostly. Another thing you want to be aware of in the Alpine is, these routes are not done as much as routes around, at your local crag. So you'll probably see a lot of loose rock up there, loose boulders. And I'm pretty sure if you do this enough, you're gonna find yourself in a situation where you're really not sure what's holding everything up. Everything's just kind of moving. Wow.
Sometimes it's just snow.
It's just snow, right? It's you don't know what to do. And I think you just have to be aware of that and kind of don't automatically trust every hold. You kind of just
sometimes if you've ever been surfboarding, then you know what can happen with rocks that you step on.
Yeah. So just be aware that every handhold, every foothold, could be a little bit loose. The next thing to be aware of, I think, is probably one of the most important things in alpine climbing is efficiency. If you're pitching out 1,000 feet of climbing, and you spend 10 minutes at setting up an anchor for a belay, you're hours past where you need to be, especially in the winter when the days are short. So you should I recommend like really thinking about how to be efficient throughout the entire route, how to set up efficient belays, how to eat your food efficiently on the move, and always keep moving is the key. Because weather, particularly in the Alps, the weather can move in pretty quick, kind of unstable. So efficiency is very important.
Along that line, it's sometimes very helpful to talk to other people about how fast they've been able to go over particular terrain.
Yeah.
Especially when you have glaciers that are highly rocky,
Yep.
very rocky and
Yep.
such, or highly crevassed. That might be slower travel,
Yep.
and you need to be able to develop a realistic schedule.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's some tricks. There's some tricks you can use. Simulclimbing is one of the best tricks you can use, where the team is moving together and you're putting in protection as you're going. But again, setting up belays quickly is super important. So let's see what we got here. Yeah, so the climbing is going to be a bit scrappy at times, a little bit blue collar. So you can just expect a variety of climbing
Sorry,
technique.
blue collar.
Blue collar, yeah, a little burly. Route finding is another thing you want to keep in mind. Alpine climbing is typically done in big mountains, and when you get close to that big mountain, it just doesn't look the same, right? So, just like a few tips for route finding. Obviously, study the guidebook, take pictures of it, make copies of it, take it with you on the route. You can, when you're approaching the mountain, look for the route and look for like big features that you're gonna kind of run across when you're up there, and then you can use that to generally kind of guide you. And then your best bet is like path of least resistance. So like this route in particular is climbed in the 1800s, so I'm pretty sure they weren't like pulling 514 to get up this thing. So when you're on a 5-4 climb, you're doing 510. You're like, okay, you're probably off route. and that's when it's important to like say, okay, I got it, back down and reset, right?
Of course, it may be the only 510 you get to do all week.
Yeah, it's some rock pitches. And then the last thing I'll mention in this section is, unlike climbing at your local crag where the cruxes are protected, the pitches are protected well, you can put in regular pro. You're going to run into sections on an alpine climb that are a bit sketchy, where you can't put in protection. There's high consequence terrain. In this particular example, this is a traverse off a pretty soft snow slope, and there's like a 1,000-foot cliff on the left of the frame. There's not a lot of pro, and he's got to pull like a couple rock moves up there. So I think I mentioned this just so that you're able to kind of recognize these situations and then maybe stop and evaluate the best way to get through it, and kind of think about it a little bit. But it's part of alpine climbing. I think that's one of the many differences between alpine climbing and rock climbing. It's just a little bit more bold in some situations.
And you're always looking for alternate routes.
Yeah. If this doesn't go, then maybe there's some other
It's
route.
like a chess game.
Yeah. Let's see. And then at some point in the route, you're going to see the summit. So most summits in Austria are marked with a cross. So I don't know if you can see it like way up there. It's going to look like really small at first. It's going to seem like it takes forever to get there. But you'll eventually get there. But so summit, now you're thinking about the descent, and most of the times I think the descent is just as challenging as the climb, because you're
Well, more people die on descent.
yeah. I mean, you're still pitching stuff out. You're rappelling. You're moving together. It takes a lot of time, I guess. So when you're timing your day, make sure the summit, arrival time is kind of more towards the middle of the day. And there's other reasons why you want to do that, but it will take time to get off the mountain. Is my point. navigation is actually is pretty tricky on the descent. Fortunately, in the Alps, there's a lot of infrastructure to support mountain sports, so you're going to find cairns on the way down. In some cases, there'll be, painted arrows on the way down, so it's telling you which way to go, which helps. And I would say, just in general, what you're looking for to get off a ridge is kind of a low angle weakness in the ridge, kind of a shallow snow couloir or something, to get you back down to the base. And then collect your gear, rope up, go back across the glacier, and then you got like a nice ski out. So, yeah, kind of a quick 101 on alpine climbing.
What's a guide charge you for a private outing?
250 to 300 euro.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
for-
one-on-one.
for-
It's not bad.
For
It's not bad.
one-on-one, that's outstanding.
No, so.
That's €300. That's maybe $375 for 10 hours.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's funny.
What a lucrative profession.
You might talk about the certifications that you can expect the guides to have.
Yeah, they're all.
You'll find guides that have nothing. They just,
Some of the older guys.
those guys are making lots of money. I'll do it too. I know how to climb. I think.
Yeah, all the guides in Austria are certified at the international certification level. The Austrian guiding in particular has gone through a lot of changes in the last 10 years or so. Much more formal process for getting in. The standards are much higher than they used to be. I mean, I think you got to climb like 8A, which is 513. And it's they're really impressive people. But yeah.
Can you talk about why you chose this particular objective?
We were in the area for like a holiday, I think, and we just look around for something. And this is a really classic route just south of Innsbruck. So
How long was the ski approach?
it was. So again, we took the gondola to the top of the ski resort, bumped over a ridge, and the ski approach is basically crossing probably 2 miles of glacial terrain. Yeah.
Was it heavily glaciated? Lots of glaciers?
Yeah, I'll show you.
You can see it from the first couple of shots.
Right there. So we started from the far end and approached and cut all the way across. So if you skirted the right hand side there, then the south side, it was pretty good. It's starting to break up as it's going over that lip there. So
you
stayed away from
can't,
that.
I'm sorry, you can't see any of the crevasses. They're covered with snow.
No, some are open. Especially,
They're still open. And
Yeah.
you did this in the winter.
yes.
Did you have drag knots, or how? Just out of curiosity, in the rope system?
No drag knots.
Did you lead or he lead?
He led this way. I led back. Yeah. The snow was pretty thick, so I think if someone did go in, you'd be able to stop it pretty quick. Yeah.
What are drag knots?
They're like butterfly knots you put in the rope that'll catch the lip of a crevasse to kind of stop the climber.
Drag through all that snow.
Yeah,
The snow is
Yeah.
thick.
Creates more friction.
Yeah.
It just
Makes it a
makes
pain in the ass.
potentially
Pulls the way back
self-rescue a little
Yeah.
more difficult trying to pass those
Yeah.
knots through your belay devices.
I guess
We did-
you always have a choice of
That's
just
why you
like
need two sections.
We did have a lot.
looks good.
What's that? This is good. The skiing's good. Oh yeah, it's really good. Yeah, a lot of powder. Out there. Yeah, you get best of both worlds.
Yeah, if I lived on the West Coast, I'd probably do that.
Okay, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
All
Sure.
right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you.
Grab some pizza before it's gone.
Yeah.
I have a question. What did you eat?
A couple Clif bars.
Oh, the
Yeah.
full 2 clip.
And he had,
I saw it in the corner. I was like, surely I forgot.
it was in the picture, he had the energy blocks, what are they called? Shot blocks, yeah.
San Diego? Yeah. I thought I saw you one time.
Okay, let's go ahead and kill that, and we will return to the rest of the business meeting.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That was my bag. I don't know.
You bought it 10 years ago?
All right, everybody. Let's continue to go through business meeting items. There was not an XCOM meeting this month, but I did attend the PATC council meeting. Let's see. Since the time of our election, I think we've been through now 3 PATC presidents.
Wow.
So recently, the PATC president resigned. A replacement was recently elected and convened the meeting last night. So that's sort of an ongoing thing. What I do want to report on is that, as many of you may recall, there was a discussion late last year about the charter relationship between PATC Main Club and PATC Mountaineering Section. That resulted in a long set of discussions that were primarily about insurance. The is largely because there was an understanding between the parent club and the mountaineering section that the insurance of the parent club did not cover mountaineering section activities. Similar issues arose with the Shenandoah Mountain Rescue Group, whose van whose trailer you can see outside, and the ski touring section.
And they
However,
both have their own insurance.
Excuse me?
They both carry their own insurance.
Well,
And
it's
also
complicated.
individuals-
It's complicated.
Yeah, and
right?
individuals
It's
have to have their own
it's
insurance as well.
complicated, right? So I confirmed, as of just 2-3 weeks ago, that the current insurance carrier for PATC considers everything we do a covered activity. There is no gap. Okay, now that does, however, reopen the whole question of joint membership, because that means that we're riding on their insurance without paying them membership. So expect that issue to come back. And I just point out that this has only been recently resolved, not resolved, but recently addressed in dealing with the insurance people, and we will reopen this discussion in another month or two.
Are there excluded activities?
There are no excluded activities, except for those involving more than 500 people.
You know, that's an amazing flip. 5 years ago, we were told. Incredible.
I cannot explain it, and I cannot guarantee that it won't flip the other way next year. I can only tell you I spent time on the phone with the insurance people, and I sent them like a 6-page list of every risky activity that we do, and they said, it's okay with us.
I nevertheless strongly encourage you to look into getting an umbrella policy, like on your homeowners or something like that.
I have an umbrella policy, okay, and most past chairs of this club have also, but that's a separate question.
Especially if you're going to be doing teaching,
yes.
things like that.
I had a suggestion. Instead of trying to force people to have main club membership, would they be happy if out of our funds we paid them?
Maybe, but it's more complicated. So the ski touring section has a complicated, so SMRG and ski touring have both come to separate arrangements, neither of which is exactly what you're describing.
Yeah.
SMRG is now no longer a section, they're an affiliated club. And they have created a separate legal entity for Shenandoah Mountain Rescue Group. Ski touring section has a different arrangement that's based on the fact that most ski touring section events are expensive, because they involve, renting facility, renting a house, or, doing something, at least anything that's outside the local area. So essentially they have the way their system is built is that you don't have to be a member of PATC, but if you actually go on more than 1 or 2 ski touring section trips a year, you might as well be a member of PATC because you paid for it anyway. Right. I'm just saying these are some things we have to consider, but I wasn't proposing to try to comprehensively bring it up tonight.
Okay, I just had thought of that idea before.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that SMRG is so complicated is that they're also part of another organization, Mountaineering Rescue,
right. And they have a separate insurance arrangement.
And that makes it a lot more complicated.
Upcoming events. Bill?
We've got the Women's Crack Clinic next weekend. I think I overheard is being rescheduled.
Yeah, this weekend.
It's this weekend.
It sounds like Lydia was leaning strongly toward rescheduling, but final call is being made tomorrow afternoon for the campsite request.
Okay.
Or campground request. They want us to wait.
Yeah.
So crowd climbing is definitely
Right.
the ideal.
Yeah. But it hasn't
where
yet,
You wanna
so-
have your hands in wet crowd,
Mhm.
obviously. So, yeah, final call will be made tomorrow afternoon. Close.
And that filled up pretty quick, so that filled up like
Things you just
the
did.
day it
Mhm.
was announced, so that's pretty popular.
Yep,
So.
I, absolutely.
Hope it works out. And then over 4th of July, we're heading to the Adirondacks from Friday the 30th to July 4th. We've only got 8 people registered.
Yeah, we're relatively thin on signups right now. I
Yeah,
don't know whether
I don't think
more
an
is
announcement
coming.
went out to membership, did it?
It did.
It did?
Yeah.
Did.
Mm-hmm. So we had more people last year. I don't know if people were scared off or what, but it's.
It was a great weekend last year, though.
It
fantastic.
was really great. I agree. It was excellent. I'm surprised we didn't get more signups, but it's still a few weeks to run. People may not have decided what they want to do yet.
Right, right. Yep. And I think that's what we got, right?
Okay, so we should have a family day in July. I'll add a couple other things to this. So obviously we're doing this month's meeting here. The July meeting, summer meetings are pretty sparsely attended. So right now we're planning to do summer meetings as E.T. Rockville First Friday events.
Oh.
So the July meeting will definitely be E.T. Rockville First Friday, so you can put that on the calendar. We've already made the arrangements for that. The August meeting is up in the air. I think they would like us to agree because that way they can get a one-day liquor license and sell beer, but hasn't been done yet. September is probably going to be a joint event with AAC, probably with Alina presenting on Everest. I don't have a date, but we might adjust the date in order to accommodate a joint event with AAC. October, I hope we'll be back here, and I'm hoping we'll have the Alaska crew. And Alaska cruise, I should say, because we got 2 in Alaska, so we can do a double, actually.
Who's climbing in Alaska now?
Alpine Loud, Don and Adam and company.
right.
Yeah. Neil.
Yep, sorry.
In November, I was hoping to do a session here tentatively titled How to Sharpen Your Ice Tools.
Oh, excellent.
Which I thought would be good. It's the right time of year. Let's see, I see no Edwin, so access update is, I'll just throw in that, well, we did the Carter Rock Adopt-A-Crag. And as Carol said, the temporary rebuild of the wall has been completed. There is still an ongoing process of getting approval for a more permanent
They're
rebuild.
much closer now.
Yes.
Actually, they should have the permit within, they were talking about 2 months and they wanted to get it done. They were hoping to get it done in August. if
Really?
that's possible. Well,
You mean the
that's-
work done or the
yeah.
permit done?
Mhm.
The work done,
If
okay.
they get the permitting, they would rather have it done in August, the river's low and
Yeah.
yada, yada, yada.
That can include
Would that be a
drives and piles.
volunteer job, or are they gonna actually, Park Service is actually gonna do it?
Oh, no, the Park Service isn't doing squat.
That's
Okay.
an open question. It's going to be MAC run. It will be a volunteer job,
Yeah.
but the approval process has required a higher level of professionalism,
Exactly.
Yeah.
and there's going to be a certain amount of heavier work associated with this, like getting rocks down there.
Well,
So
and they were talking about how to get the heavy,
Yeah.
I don't,
Floating
maybe I'm making this up. A Camelot, would you use a
Camelot,
Camelot to do
yeah.
this?
yeah,
They were talking about how they could get it down or what
Right.
they could do from the top of the crag.
That
Yeah.
sounds like good rock reading exercise.
yeah.
Exactly, so.
And I don't know, the other thing that I think they need to move on is that there's questions, there's been grants that are going to expire if they're not expended. And they can't expend them until there's a permit, so that's also kind of a colliding issue. And I don't know of any other things. I assume, I don't know, do you know anything about like a Great Falls Adopt-A-Crag or any other events?
He did talk about,
I don't know.
out in the Shenandoah.
I think they had an old rag one.
Yeah.
Old
Yeah,
Red
they
Wing.
rescheduled. I know they rained
This
one out and they
Saturday.
had another
This
one,
coming
but
up,
we're
yeah.
having.
Saturday.
It's this Saturday. Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Publications. I have nothing on it. The secretary. Never mind. Gearmeister.
Hi, I'm filling in. All gear is accounted for, some of it is out, but none of it is lost.
All right. And are we in a process of buying anything or updating anything, or are we good right now?
Yeah, nothing in process of buying, also no forward progress on storage.
Okay.
Yet, so.
Okay. Summer expedition.
Question on that?
Yes, please.
Has there been any pressure as far as moving out of our class
No.
here, or were they still
Not
okay
recently.
with letting us stay there?
So far, nobody says move out. I can't tell you what may happen later, but so far, nobody has said move out.
We've looked into options, but with a lot of gear being out, such that what is in there currently fits in there.
There's an advantage to keeping it well rotated.
Or, in my apartment.
That's okay.
Summer expedition. Carol.
Well, it's
Yeah.
really a fall expedition.
Well, all right. Fall, yes.
Summer weather.
It's because, for this. So,
Mhm.
I don't know who sees this stuff, but I put out a thing about who wanted to go to either Red Rocks or Joshua Tree. J Tree. Apparently it's not. Pardon? JT? Yeah. Okay, JT. So, Brewer and JT, that's what it's gonna be. What I found out was that there were only 2 people that really wanted to go to Joshua Tree, and everybody expressed interest in Red Rocks. There are about 14 people that indicated they would be very, very interested in going. I checked today, flights, Southwest Air, it's about $300. I always go to Southwest, it's 2 free bags. Why wouldn't you? Direct flights, both in the morning and in the evening. Hotels range about, like I've looked at one, it was this Hampton Inn for adults. They'd have to be very good friends, because that would be in 2 beds. But it would be $1,100 for the week, and that includes breakfast. So it works out to a little bit more than $250 a person, doesn't get much cheaper than that. That's pretty close, that's in Summerlin, which is very close to Red Rocks. There are so many places to stay. I urge anyone that's interested to at least look at the Bonnie Springs website to check out the rooms, because, wow. Personally, I'd be too scared to stay there, but it could be right up your alley, and it's cheap. It's $765 for the week. Again, that's 2 queen-size beds. There are antlers, many, 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 many antlers, and they form an arch over the bed. So, I don't
Very
know.
rude.
Okay. Camping, there is camping, there's a group site, it's $40 a night. There is drinking water, but no showers. There are vault toilets, I'm not clear what that is, but it doesn't sound like I walk in and flush it. And it's pretty ugly, that's from Simon, so that's. I
Yeah,
did
vault
look at
toilets
pictures.
means pit toilets.
Right, so it's, but the important part is it's super ugly. To me. There are over 2,000 climbs. 750 of them are 3-star, 1,000 of them are 2-star, and 100 of them, roughly, are 4-star. They are mostly 3 to 10 pitches. There are 731 sport routes, and 1,142 trad routes. There are even 87 top rope routes. There are 160 routes that are under 5'6". There are 190 routes that are 5'7". There are 222 routes that are 5'8". And most of the really popular ones, like Epinephrine's a 5'9", 13 pitch, 1,600 feet, sounds great. Solar Slab, 5'6", 3 stars, 4 pitches. Cat in the Hat's a 6 pitch, 5'6", another 3-star climb. You can't climb there if it rains.
Yeah.
You have to wait a couple of days.
Doesn't rain very often.
It doesn't rain very often. And the temperatures, the time of the trip is, I was looking at, was the 28th of October to the 4th of November. That means we get all the daylight. Before anyone jumps to tell me that there's the same amount of daylight on the 4th of November as on the 5th, it's just that most of us don't want it at 6 o'clock in the morning. We want it at the other end of the day.
Yeah, also, I can just say, Chris, I have climbed there. I've done epinephrine and a couple other climbs, and by and large, with some exceptions, grades are relatively soft in Red Rocks compared to
It's
around
climbing
like
in
Seneca
Yosemite,
or
5'6".
Yosemite.
It's really a Seneca 5'4".
Yeah, they're softer than Yosemite. On the other hand, it is sandstone.
Right.
There is climbing
Where
there that
can?
is kind of a little unusual. I mean, there's like epinephrine has 300 feet of chimneys, and they're smooth chimneys. And yes, somebody's coming in with the beautiful rock. There's all the cool colors. And when you stick your foot on the white stuff, it doesn't stay very long because the white stuff is really soft.
Right.
You get on and you get off the white stuff.
So yeah, so that's what I can tell you about
Okay.
About that trip. It looks like there's something for pretty much everybody that's.
So what was the target date?
The 28th of October, that's a Saturday, to the 4th of November, and those are the flights I looked at. And I looked at other flights. I did look at Los Angeles, that you can drive to JT in like 3.5 to 4 hours
Do
from
that.
Las Vegas.
Mhm.
Regularly.
And it's not that much shorter driving from LA.
Yeah, it's true.
And then it said, if the traffic isn't bad.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So,
a matter of time.
exactly. So that's, if people still want to go to Joshua Tree, it's perfectly reasonable to think you can go for a couple of days. You know, it's like, okay, let's climbed
You-
everything here in Red Rock. It's all 200.
You can also be
miles.
from Vegas. You can be in Zion in about half a day.
Exactly. And it actually, on Mountain Project, listed all the nearby areas. There were many.
Right, there's a lot.
Many.
Mhm.
Joshua Tree is mostly climbed for convenience. It's handy to LA.
Right.
Mhm.
And
San Bernardino.
almost all the hotels have breakfast, and there's gambling for those of you that
Mhm.
would like to lose your shirts. So, you know, it's all this and more.
Pay for the trip.
Exactly. Yeah.
Optimize.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived as a gambler for about 10 years. We paid for the trip once.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? So I like the
Are
idea.
you-
Yes,
does-
Peter.
so does
I have a
anybody-
comment.
Yeah.
Don't forget about the awesome limestone climbing around
Around
Las
Red
Vegas.
Rock?
Oh, yeah.
Or Red
Charleston,
Rock,
we're good.
as the
Just in case it
locals
does
call
rain,
it.
there's a lot of good limestone that's
Okay.
Like around the city itself.
roofy. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just north of Red Rock Canyon is Mount Charleston. It'd probably be cold
That
that
was
time of
one
year,
of
but
the-
yeah, that's like
Mhm.
there's tons of limestone climbing there.
Oh,
For
right.
any
So-
of the,
It's all roofy.
Oh, highs and lows.
for any of the 514 climbers here.
This is
Yeah.
important.
And it's
75
sport.
is the general high,
Uh-huh.
50 is the general low.
Oh, okay.
So it's a
Okay.
nice temperature.
That's a good temperature range.
Yeah, which means nothing. I think
Mhm.
you said you've been dumped on with snow the first last week of November, so,
No, Thanksgiving, we got hammered with snowstorms.
right,
Yeah.
so.
And at the low end or the high end, it could be very windy at times too. So, or not, it can be really great. Yeah, so I think it's a pretty good idea. I think probably we'll create something. I mean, this is going to be less centrally organized than like last year's trip. I'm not inclined.
Because I don't think the group campsite.
Yeah.
Does it sound nice to y'all to, you
It's
know?
a great location.
It is a great
It's
location,
just a
but I would
crappy
like to
spot.
say the Bonnie
Yeah.
Springs Inn is inside the Conservancy, if
What were
you
those
can
dates
stand those antlers.
Uh-huh.
And the donkeys.
No, November
They're
4th. Yeah.
donkeys, like live donkeys.
There's
I've heard notoriously that the campground is like terrible.
Yeah,
So everyone says about the
Simon
place.
said it was horrible. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
It's
you
not
know.
that bad. It's a whatever campground.
But people
It's-
usually- I mean-
It's not Tuolumne, and it's not, Crane Flat, and it's probably
There
not
are a lot of cheap
Gumps, and
hotel
it's
rooms
not
in
the
Vegas, and there's a
Adirondacks.
lot of cheap hotel rooms in Vegas.
Exactly. You can
Yeah.
honestly, for $25 a day, you
And
can
you have a
have
shower.
breakfast and Wi-Fi and
Uh-huh.
a shower at the end of the day. So,
And a
that sounds good to me.
Way to go.
Well, maybe my showers.
All right. Other questions or comments about Red Rocks?
I can concur that the grading is soft there.
Yeah. You do have to watch it because there are exceptions.
I mean, there's exceptions.
There are.
Everywhere.
And there are some scary routes there. Like any place that has 1,000 routes can have some scary routes. The other lesson I was told by people there is that you have to look more carefully at who put the route up. Because a lot of the routes were put up by the same couple who had the general idea that they graded soft and they were carefully engineered their routes to be pleasant experiences for people who would travel to Red Rocks. But there's certain other people who put routes up more in the line of, I'm awesome, I should put up a really hard route, and then I should undergrade it so that everybody thinks I'm cooler, and
Mike does that.
It's their face page for each climb.
Yeah.
Mountain Project doesn't normalize it a bit. I thought people adjusted. From
They
the
try,
original
but you
routes.
know, if it's not climbed that much, it won't happen. You know, if it gets done a lot, yeah, it'll be kind of adjusted. But if it's done rarely, you probably won't see it.
You have to get a pass to park past 5 o'clock in the
Oh,
park.
yeah.
You have to make sure you do that.
Mhm.
There is a fee to get into the park every day, but I advise all you youngsters to befriend us old people because you will slide in on our golden pass.
Yeah, that's right. Also, I don't know
And you
if there's
can't get a permit to
and
stay to
and
be
what
parked.
constitutes being in the park depends on which entrance you're in. Because I recall,
It was
Black
parking.
Black Velvet Canyon's not technically.
yeah, Black Velvet Canyon is technically not in the park, and there's a lot of climbing in Black Velvet Canyon.
I saw.
Okay.
But that was But that's a thing to think about. But the car rentals were cheap too, really.
Okay.
Still have somebody's
And
guide.
it's about a half hour from the airport.
Yeah. All right. Other
Just hold on.
thoughts or comments, questions? Thank you. Training. Mr. Training? Do you have any special words
Talking
for
to
us?
me?
Yeah, I'm looking at you, buddy.
No, as for, we'll continue these mini clinics through
Uh-huh.
the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
next couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
We just did new leader thing. There's been some interest in doing a self-rescue clinic, but
Yeah.
outside of that, I think we're done
Okay.
for the season.
All right. Did you want to make any comments about the near accident we saw and about the double length clip
Oh, you
thing we
wanna
talked
talk about that?
Yeah, let's.
Yeah,
It takes 3 minutes,
we can
5
talk
minutes. Let's
about
talk
that.
about it.
Question?
Oh, I know. I just had a question. I don't even know how realistic this is, but I mean, is there any sort of like chimney climbing class that you guys
Chimney
have?
climbing?
Yeah.
You said you climb chimneys, so this is spectacular.
Push your body parts back and forth and do what you can.
Have you seen a bear doing it?
Yeah.
It's like that.
I've never seen you guys do it.
Mark talked about the accident that happened during our clinic. These were two young women who, not part of PATC. None of us were really critiquing them, watching what they were doing. We just kind of, you know, like, out of the corner of my eye, I can see what's going on over here.
Watched in horror as the scene unfolded,
Yes.
I think would be the thing.
I saw her hit the ground, but I did not see her fall. Okay? Simon kind of saw her fall, but didn't really critique her pro. So we don't know really why she fell. 2 pieces popped. Well, my inclination is, you know, probably poor pro to begin with. And she wanted to climb the easy climbs that we were on, so she might have been climbing at her physical limit or even beyond. Simon indicated that it looked like she was trying to retreat when she did fall. She fell, landed on her butt on a boulder, and then flipped over backwards and landed on her head on the ground.
She was wearing a helmet.
She was wearing a helmet, but it was scary. The route she was on, I can't think of the name, was the 5-6 at Sugarloaf, and there's a little bit of a roof that you have to protect and then come back out and go up the crack.
Middle Earth?
No, no.
I'm sorry, what?
Middle Earth?
No, it's a
we
Boy
were
Scout.
Scouts.
It's Boy Scout
We were
Legends.
Boy Scouts.
Mhm.
Oh, God, I know, that's hard.
Yeah, so,
Oh, I hate that.
there is a technique that obviously she wasn't aware of, that may or may not have worked at this particular climb. But I mentioned it to Simon and Mark said, well, that's a pretty good tip, maybe we should talk about that. When you get to a roof or a traverse, you're basically faced with 2 decisions. Do I clip the pro short to protect the fall, or do I clip the pro long to allow no rope drag? Okay? She was in under the roof and she had a long sling to eliminate the rope drag, but that long sling increases the length of her fall. Okay?
And with obstacles immediately below the roof, that's a
Right.
problem.
Okay, so, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't, okay?
Or leave pro buffalo.
Well, there is a technique where it's, you clip short and long. You put two slings on it, and some people.
And take it out when you.
And then, anyway, I'm going to demonstrate it. It doesn't work all the time because you may not be able to get back to the pro, but if you're able to, it does give you an option. So, if you know, I'm climbing up this crack and I get to a roof, or not necessarily a roof, but say a pendulum, not a pendulum, a traverse, where I've got to go this way to get around an obstacle. There's going to be some rope drag in it. So
So
I could
Piotr,
borrow
you
for
should.
a moment.
He's not a very good anchor.
I know.
He's a piece of pro. Just think of him as a nut. Just think of him as a nut.
Be an anchor. Okay.
Just think of him as a
Here's
nut.
my pro. Okay. So I'm gonna come up, and I'm under the roof here. You know, if
Are
I
you slinging the boulder? Is that
Yes.
what's going on?
if
now?
I use a long sling, then potentially I'm gonna take a long fall. If I use a short sling, then potentially I'm gonna have a short fall. Then I'm gonna introduce a lot of rope drag when I come back out the roof, or when I go around the corner to this ledge. So there's a technique. Okay, where I clip both pieces, okay? So as I go out now over here, okay, and I clip my new piece,
You're clipping
okay?
the other line.
C-clip.
Okay,
What are you doing there?
did I just Z-clip? Okay, excuse me. All right, okay. All right. So I now clip. I can come back over here and undo the short one because I'm protected. And now the long sling,
The pendulum makes it not matter.
Mm-hmm.
and I just leave that for my second to clear. So I've eliminated the rope drag, but I protected myself with this short sling if I fell. The difficulty using this technique is that this next piece is so far away that I can't get back to it. It makes it difficult.
Right.
There are ways of doing that, but that's another thing. I could do a tension reverse and clip it, or I could even lower back.
Or
But
just climb back.
a lot of things. But the idea of having both a short and a long one gives you an option that once you clear it and you have another piece to protect you,
You've already got
I
that.
can unclip it and eliminate the drag. Now, Simon and Mark think that that probably wouldn't work at this particular climb because the roof was so big that once she cleared the roof, she would not been able to get
Right.
back
And-
underneath it.
Right.
And,
But
and-
it's quite possible that she could have protected inside the roof
yes.
and then protected out the roof
Mhm.
and then protected over the roof.
From what I saw, I personally think there wasn't much cure for this, but for her to have a bigger cam that would have fit at the lip of the roof.
Well,
but
I think that she was
Yeah.
at her physical limit
Yes.
and her systems
Right.
limit.
Mhm.
That she didn't have enough tools in her box
Yeah.
to protect this.
Mhm.
You are done. But she pulled two pieces, and
Yeah.
one of the pieces pulled a piece of rock.
yeah, and the rock breaking at the same time was certainly a compounding factor.
But you know, it's highly unusual that you have two pieces pop, and
The cams?
so close to the
Nah,
ground.
they appeared to be nuts, as far as I could tell.
Off the ground.
They
were nuts?
Chris thought one was a slung rock.
Yeah,
and then
it
one
may have
nut.
been. Like I said, none of us really took a close look, and there wasn't a lot of discussion happening afterwards. There was mostly just a lot of shaking, but.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, we all kind of stopped for a minute, and then we all went back to work.
Yeah.
Well, you said she got up and walked off, so.
It took a few minutes, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but, you know,
I thought it was.
a lot of people
I
have-
thought that
have
all our
hand
first aid
fractures
training was
that
about to come into
manifest
use, but
itself until she
And the
gets
more
home.
people injure themselves at a place like that, the harder it is for future climbing.
yeah. So yeah, that's another good point, which is our access to a place like that is not guaranteed. A really bloody accident at a place like Sugarloaf could easily close off climbing access to the place.
Because they're privately owned, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That route, by the way, is so easy to top rope. It's
Yeah, I agree. But they were clearly wanting to lead. I don't know why they didn't go to the top, and or if they thought it was, but they may have had a problem trying to figure out which one was which. They may have been on something they weren't intending to be on.
Tend to lead.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
Yeah, I-
practice is
I
the
would
same.
mock lead that, but I wouldn't lead lead.
Mhm.
Well, I've led it, and at some point, that's why we leave. We don't want to top rope.
Yeah.
Right, but if you're doing it for
Mm-hmm.
practice, then
Anyway, there was just a quick interlude. I thought from the training chair that it was a situation we saw. It was worth thinking about. how that might have been dealt with in a better way than it actually was. It wasn't our accident, but
And all your
we still want to pay
leaders, your
attention
new
to it.
leaders got to see a leader fall. Yay. And where pro doesn't work, yay.
Well,
Yeah.
I,
And I never.
I've seen leader falls, but I have never seen a ground fall.
Mhm.
That was my first visual watching
Mhm.
of a ground fall.
Mhm.
And, Jesus, it was scary.
Mhm.
It really was scary.
It was not pretty to see her fall. I really thought she was hurt badly.
Mhm.
It's lucky that little cliff is only like 30 feet tall, so.
Mhm.
She didn't fall more than 10, 12 feet
It was,
tall.
but it was
So
onto
that
it was a
really-
bad land. It was a very bad landing.
It's a, ooh.
Wasn't sawdust big, huh?
10 foot is a class 3
I will
fall,
never
so
leave.
Yeah.
theoretically you can kill yourself doing that.
Okay, women's events. I know about crack.
Crack.
And do we have anything else on the calendar? I know you're not exactly surrogate for women's events, but I'm looking at you anyway. Vice Chair, anything else on the calendar?
I don't
He's
believe
not
so, no.
surrogate either.
Okay.
Nothing coming up.
All right. So I know there's the cracks, the crack climbing seminar at the new plant. I don't know of anything else planned at this
There's a
time.
women's summit at the end of July, but I think it's fully enrolled.
Oh, there is. Okay. And is that a Diane event?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. It's Princess Seneca event.
Diane.
Your favorite piece of gear. Your essential.
Okay. Any other old business or new business? Am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then I think we're done for the evening. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Do you want me to do the agenda, or
I'm sorry?
do you want me to put up the agenda?
From tonight? I made notes. I didn't send one out to anybody, but I can send one to you if you want to post it.
Yeah. I mean, I figure one of us should post it.
Yeah, I'll post it. I'll just send it to you.
Either way.